Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another event here at the Life School. I'm so blessed to be back with you with another amazing set of speakers and another amazing panel that we have here together for you to help you level up to the next level and scale your life and business legacy so that you can create more impact in the world, but also do more good in the world. I just want to remind you that this event is brought to you by the Life School, where we help purpose-driven leaders to build a legacy company that does good in the world through the operations, the branding, marketing, sales, systems, and team. Our vision is to empower purpose-driven business leaders to use their life's purpose through legacy entrepreneurship. Our mission is to become the most impactful global community in purposeful entrepreneurship. And then lastly, our values are community, connection, service, and contribution. In this conference today, I believe that all beautiful conversations happen when we create a safe space and we all feel heard and seen. So I'm so excited to start off with my first speaker that I have here on my Zoom room screen, Janet Sandberg. And Janet, thank you so much for coming on here today. And I welcome you and thank you again for your time, all of you ahead of time for what you will share with us. I would love to start off with you, and if you could share some of the most meaningful moments in your journey that led you to the work that you're doing so that we can get to know you a little bit better.
Sure. Thanks so much for being here. And I'm happy to meet so many amazing people here today, some of whose names I recognize, and happy to see faces and get to know you all better. So my name is Janet, and I am a Canadian living in the US, and I have been doing what I do for over 35 years in one form or another. I'm an intuitive coach and healer, and I help people move from chaos and confusion to clarity and confidence by connecting them to their soul's passion and wisdom to create lives and businesses full of ease and flow and abundance and success. And yeah, it's been a journey. Like I said, I've been doing this for most of my life in one form or another. And at one point, I realized that I could use my gifts to help people. And the only way to do that was to start a business. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and quickly realized that starting a business as a solopreneur is initially all about personal growth and development. And there is the learning of the business side of things, but that was easy. It was the learning how to be me and how to reach the people that I wanted to reach, how to help them in the best way that was right for them, while also being right for me, not losing myself in the process. And that took a long time and lots of experimentation. And what I finally realized is that if I just listened to my soul and followed my gut, as non-spiritual people would say, that everything just came so much easier. And there was one point where, you get into that mode and you're downloading all the freebies that constantly appear in your Facebook feed and all over social media, and you're getting instructions from left, right, and center, and everybody's saying a different thing. And I was just lost. And I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. So I'm going to turn all of those off. I'm not going to sign up for anyone else's opinions or expertise for a year. And I'm going to turn inwards and follow myself and my soul and do for me what I do for other people. And it was an amazing difference, not only in my business, but also just in my life. Everything started to just flow. And yeah.
Jenna, I love what you shared, and I think we can all relate. I can relate to also the clarity part and being connected to your purpose. And a lot of the times, we're trained, programmed as a society, always look on the outside for our answers to the things that we're trying to figure out, on the new dots that we're trying to connect, whether it's our personal life or our business.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that you shared that you put that boundary very strongly in your life to be going within and to eliminate a lot of the outer noise so that you could probably figure out some of the pieces of the process that you might have been missing as you're trying to figure out the next goals that you wanted to go after as far as your purpose, whether it was your business or your personal life. What have you learned in your process with your clients? Are there any predictable steps or fundamentals that you now share with others? Because I know when you do something once, twice, 3 times, 10 times, 100 times, there's patterns that repeat. So that for somebody that is listening and they're trying to get that clarity in their business, and honestly, I have found that at every scaling stage and phase of our business growth, this is even more important because you're always going to have things that are always coming towards you. And, you know, the bigger the business, the bigger the opportunities for things to come towards you. So is there like a predictable process that you now use with your clients that you could share with us for somebody that maybe is looking for that clarity at this moment and it feels lost or misaligned between what they're trying to do and where they are in their personal lives?
Sure. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing is to cut out the noise, stop listening to other people and do what feels good to you. And I remember I had a client one time and she was like, "Wait, you mean I can just do my business the way it feels good to me? Like I don't have to follow any rules and I can open at whatever times I want." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever is good for you, people will feel that and they'll want to work with you." So that's sort of the initial biggest hurdle is to feel good. And the way that you know what feels good to you is to take the time. It's not about jumping out of bed and running into the office and checking your emails and getting going. You have to take that time first to connect with yourself so that you know when you're feeling good and when something doesn't align and you're saying yes to things that you don't really want to do, because you think it's going to help. And I've fallen prey to all of these things myself. I'm not, I'm walking the talk. I've learned this from experience as well. That and yeah, now I just hope to help others overcome those initial hurdles and not have to do it the hard way like I did.
Yeah, I mean it's like almost like programming things on the other end for a lot of us, and just trusting in the process, right? That's very
Mhm.
hard to
And
be
trusting yourself.
and
Yeah.
trusting ourselves through the process. Well, thank you so much, Janet, and good. Thank you for going first and
Thank
just
you.
taking the leap of faith. But I always say when you speak from your heart, whatever comes up is always the right message. So thank you for all the amazing work that you're doing out there, and I'll come back to you at the end as well. All right, I would love to introduce our next speaker up, which is going to be Dr. Cheryl Okoli, an old amazing, a beautiful, amazing connection, I should say, from the beautiful platform of LinkedIn. So good to see you back, Dr. Cheryl. Thanks so much for coming on. And the same question for you. We'll start us off with a few of the most meaningful dots in your journey that led you to what you do today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me again, Miss Elona Lopari. And before I answer your question, I really believe in what you're doing. And I've mentioned to you in the past, I do believe you're building an empire. And testament of people who show up here and other forums is a testament to what you're doing. So keep it up. Thank you. So yeah. So what led me to my journey? So currently, I'm the owner and founder of Shalom Eagles Wings. You can see my logo. And that's a play on words. Shalom, most people know it to mean peace, but it's much more than peace. It's wholeness. And I'm all about holistic. So holism thinking, holism. So that's about physical, mental, social, cultural, spiritual domain. So my business, Shalom Eagles Wings, I am a solopreneur. I'm Canadian, residing in Calgary, Alberta. And my business, Shalom Eagles Wings, think of it as all about consultancy, advocacy, and empowerment. So why did I start this? So throughout my journey of 20 years of healthcare experience, so I do have a clinical background and my doctorate is in health administration, just to clarify. I'm not a medical doctor, but my doctorate is in health administration. Throughout my journey, the first 10 years, I realized that people had a hard time dealing with conflict effectively. Conflict is not a bad thing. It can be constructive, it could be destructive. And it's basically whenever you're in any situation that's conflictual, Ask yourself, what side of the coin, so to speak, do you want it to fall? On the constructive side or on the destructive side? I made a promise back then that if I ever had a chance to empower people to deal with conflict effectively, I will do something about it. I promised myself and to God, if I'm fully honest, and mostly to God. But nevertheless, when I was undergoing my graduate studies, I had the opportunity to focus my capstone project on something. And at the time, I was working in the operating room. So I spent 10 years working in the operating room. And I decided to focus on conflict resolution in the operating room. And the product of that was a manual called Conflict in the Operating Room, Fight or Flight, or Growth and Communication. And one thing led to the other. So conflict was something, sadly, I had been the brunt of the destructive side. I was sometimes bullied, I was sometimes, anyway, that was the past. But those were stepping stones to propel me to what I'm doing right now and to serve others in that capacity. So my whole work is not just conflict resolution, it's anything to do with health administration. So think of it as anything pertaining to your leadership, your workforce development, your partnerships, both internally and externally, forging positive work cultures and organization culture and climate. And last but not least, looking at your financial practices. So the advocacy part of Shalom Eagles Wings, what came out of it is I'm always looking for ways to build gap in healthcare from a population lens. So as an example, my latest venture is a retreat called Renata Wellness and Recreation Retreat. And why did that come about? If I were to ask all of you to reflect, and I'm not being biased because I do have a healthcare background, but think about it. Healthcare providers are forever and ever and ever pouring out into people. My question was, who cares for them? Where is their safe haven? To recalibrate, to rejuvenate, to receive tender, loving care, physically, mentally, holistic, physically, mentally, socially, culturally, and spiritually. So Renata Wellness and Recreation Retreat, right there, is a venture where those in the healthcare industry, regardless of hierarchy, they could be in management, they could be in C-levels, they could be at the front lines, academia, research, they're loved on, and we provide care and slight learning on things like conflict resolution, organization development, and a very unique program called nighttime dream counseling, because I believe you should all pay attention to your nighttime dreams because they can reveal warnings, creativity, and your next venture. So going back to the original question, I started these two businesses because I wanted to serve people holistically. I wanted to serve them from their leadership perspective. So yes, I do have a high level strategic management. And for me, strategic management means planning, execution, and implementation. And each of those arms have multiple sub arms to go with them. But yeah, that's my contribution to the world. And I'm very happy to serve anyone that might need my assistance.
I love your mission, Dr. Shaw, because we have connected before, and I love that your target demographic, so to speak, let's call it that, in the business language is, in people in the healthcare field, because just like anything, they're in service to others, and it's so easy to kind of, fall on the wayside with their own well-being and health, and just like anything else, if they don't learn how to put their mask on first, how is it that they can support and serve others and do more good in the world that way? Because that's really one common point that unites all of us here. We're all purpose driven. We believe in the work we do, the service or the product we have. Most of us have a service, and we really believe that's our vocation to the world, the way we do more good in the world as well. Dr. Shara, I'd love to get your insight or wisdom. We are all blessed to be able to access each other's wisdom here around conflict resolution. I think that's also a very pertaining topic, a relevant topic for lots of business leaders, conscious business leaders. What are some pillars or fundamentals that you have used to also help your own clients, that you have learned from your experience around conflict resolution skills that we can also maybe learn as entrepreneurs and as business leaders?
Yes. So maybe what I will do to answer that question, I will leave you with my 5 A's of conflict resolution. Okay. these are proprietary, but I'll share with you. And if you apply this regardless of if you face a value conflict, it could be interpersonal, task, process, or systems. Okay. So the first A is assess. Assess this issue that I find myself in, is it worth addressing? If you say yes, the next assess is it the right time to do so, right? We can all have in our mind, we could all be emotional, but when we're emotional, it's the right time to assess any conflict, right? The second A is approach. And actually, it's fun we're talking about this. I was just on a show yesterday and I was presenting my 5 A's of conflict resolution with dance because I'm all about bringing dance of movement into tools as an educational tools for us to remember things. So A, assess. Imagine you have a magnifying glass like Sherlock Holmes. You want to assess that issue. You want to approach. I go like a swimmer. So you want to approach that issue politely. You can approach individually, but depending on the nature of the event, or if it's somebody that maybe perhaps is a power imbalance and you're afraid of the person, you might need to bring maybe a union rep if you belong to a union. But if you do not, bring someone. But make sure you tell the other party you're approaching them not to gang up on them, but because you feel more comfortable with that third party there. The next A, so you assess, you approach like a swimmer. Third, you want to analyze. Analyze means brainstorming together. So, have you ever remembered, or maybe if anyone has done any work in conflict resolution and negotiation, the classic story of a child, two children actually, there's this orange, and they both want the orange. None of them is relenting about this desire. A neutral party comes in and asks them, why exactly do you want the orange? One person says, I wanted to make juice. The other party says, oh, I need the rind to make cake or something like that. Did you see, because the mediator came in, asked the question, got to recognize what your positions and interests are, and it was very easy. They both got the part of the orange that they wanted, right? So you can apply that to your work process. So two parties may differ because what is conflict? It's all about a difference in values, aims, or goals. People might have their own positions about something. They might have their interests, but you need to really assess what it is. So we assess, we approach, we analyze. This is the dance move, which is the brainstorming part. Next, you want to assert. Now, assert, when I go like that, please don't do that in a real conflict situation. It's just reminiscent of back in the day when those teachers had those good old pointers. Thank goodness I don't have them anymore, right? So that's their certain. So you assert. Again, politely share your point of view, listen to them to share their point of view. Conflict, you may understand. The key is to understand. You may not necessarily agree. Seek to understand, right? And then after your search, the last A is agree to disagree, handshake. Now, you can extend the metaphorical handshake or the literal handshake, but the reality is this. They may not accept your handshake, but you've done what you can do within yourself. And why did I share that? So when it comes to value situations, for instance, where there's some sort of conscientious objection, for instance, right? It could be maybe vaccinated, not be vaccinated, it could be abortion or anything. You may not see eye to eye with someone. You may just have to agree to disagree about a situation, but don't be deceived. Agree to disagree is a bona fide tool of conflict resolution. So yeah, so I'll apply those in my client situations where it's maybe we're drawing up contract and maybe things are not very clear in terms of the deliverables. Take that time to assess what they're asking you to do. What exactly are the deliverables, for instance? And sometimes agree to disagree comes in where you know what, they may not want to pay you what you think you're worth. Sometimes you have to decide, do I walk away or do I stay put, right? So I hope that helps answer
Yeah.
your question.
I love it. I love the 3 A's, and I love myself a good process because there's always like there's always steps to get a predictable result. And I just value that from your experience, you are sharing that as well. And yeah, I mean, I think all those 3 A's are really important.
5 A's. Five
Oh,
A's.
there was 5 A's.
So you
One,
want to
two, three, there
assess,
was three.
like
Repeat
a
them.
magnifying glass,
Okay.
approach,
Okay.
analyze,
Analyze.
assert,
Assert.
and agree to disagree, the handshake.
Agree to disagree. Okay, beautiful. So thank you so much, Dr. Cheryl. And I know if you can hang on until the end, we'll find ways to further connect with you. Thank you so much for your all the amazing work that you're doing out there in the world to help others and serve others. And I appreciate you being here as well.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, I would love to go to our next speaker, which is going to be Yetunde Shorters. Yetunde, I hope I didn't butcher your name. Sorry if I did.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, how are you? Thanks for having me. It's Yay Tunde Radio. Have a nice day. Yay Tunde.
Yay, Yetunde.
That's
There you
it.
go. Simple enough. Thank you so much for being here. And if you could
Thank
start
you.
off with where are you based, and also the same question for you, some of the most meaningful moments that lead you to the work that you're doing in the world.
Thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to meet all of you. I wish we were in a room and I could hang out and get to know you better. So it's lovely to see your beautiful faces. My name is Yetunde Shorters, born in Chicago, raised in Nigeria. And so when I think about kind of the things that got me here, there's three things that pop up. One, if anybody here has ever seen Revenge of the Nerds, I'm aging myself here, but you guys remember the Lambda Lambda team? Well, I watched that movie and I created my own Lambda 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 chapter in Lagos, Nigeria. And I thought I would be the president since I started it. Well, there was this older girl who was, Francisca was her name. She was 11 years old, I think. So she was like the boss of the little kids. And she said, Yetunde, you're going to be the PRO. I'm like, no, ma'am. I started this organization. I'm going to be the president. She's like, no, you're really good with people. You're going to be the PRO. I'm like, okay, first of all, what is PRO? And that was the first time I was exposed to public relations officer. And so fast forward, I kind of, if you grew up in an African home, you're either a lawyer, a doctor, a banker, or an engineer. So I picked the lawyer route. Dr. Cheryl is shaking, she's scratching her head. you ended up in the doctor route. I picked the lawyer route. And somewhere in college, I was like, okay, I can't do all this reading. And I want to be a wealthy person. So I can't work for the good guys because, it's always a cash strap situation. So I'm like, so what's going to happen? So I switched to PR and I had an ad campaign we had to do for Verizon. And I realized in the ad campaign, we literally reached millions of people in 30 seconds. Mind blown. I'm like, oh my God, I can reach more people with PR. I fell in love with PR. So from that age, so fast forward, I moved from Nigeria, obviously, back to America. But before then, at age 11, this was the second time my purpose showed up. I went to a boarding school, which is typical if you go to an African country. And one of my classmates from a wealthy family, but she was slacking off in school. And one of these days we were in school, in class studying, getting ready for a test, and she just was in a playful mood. So she came around trying to disturb everybody, and I got saucy. I'm like, excuse me, why are you trying to disturb us? We're trying to study. And I just went in on her, like, right? But by the time I was done, there were like 20 of my classmates there listening to the conversation. And she ended up literally from that conversation, improving her grades and just being better in school. So that's step two. Step three was I was 29. And at that point, I had done international PR. So I worked with Grammy, Emmy, and Tony Award-winning artists in classical music. So I was the Black girl in classical music. And then eventually I was like, okay, I want to work with small business owners to get them international publicity. So I started my company on July 7, 2007. And I worked hard. I know that I worked hard. I was up and then I was doing international PR. So I had clients in the Caribbean, in Europe, in West Africa, in South Africa, which meant I wasn't sleeping. So I ended up in the hospital from adrenal fatigue. And I realized in that moment as I'm laying there and the doctor is telling me, what do you do? And I said, I'm in PR. He's like, well, you got to find another job because this is not working out for you. And I thought, well, if I died, I'm an African. They will eat rice and have a great party and they will move on. I was like, okay, well, we're going to fix that. Like, this has got to be a better way to do this. And so literally I got home from the hospital and I said, I want to change my life in 30 days. What does that look like? And I was working for myself at that time. And if you work for yourself and you ever turn on Law and Order, you never watch just one episode. 3 episodes later, I'm like, oh my God, I'm wasting my life. There's got to be a better way. And so I said, okay, I want to change my life in 30 days. What does that look like? I stopped watching TV. I read a whole lot of books. I kind of centered and got to myself like, okay, I know what I'm called to do. I'm really good at synthesizing information and helping people experience radical clarity. It's a gift. I've known it for a long time. So much so I trademarked the word radical clarity. And then I realized the moment that I stepped fully into my purpose that I was meant to do this. And so my gift is helping specifically women entrepreneurs get radical clarity on what their purpose is so that it can impact the world, build a community of their dreams, and make money confidently doing the thing that feels like they're their authentic self, where they can show up fully, they can evolve into higher levels of themselves. And I get to use my gifts and abilities that I've been privy and blessed to have to support them in that journey. And so the simplest way I can explain what I do, if anyone has watched The Matrix, raise your hand. If you've watched The Matrix, all right, everybody know who Morpheus is? I am the Morpheus to their personal brand. I believe my clients are the one. So I do everything and anything in my power to help them believe it. And they end up doing that and becoming thought leaders in their industry. That is my journey.
Wow, Yetunda, thank you so much for sharing that. Love how you keep everybody so engaged in your clear energy as well, because I know that's also connected to a lot of the inner work that you've done. So I could so relate to a lot of the things that you shared. But oh gosh, so beautiful. So then how do we get radical clarity and I guess connect that to our personal brand so that we can also leverage PR to help us scale our service to the world and also expose ourselves to the people that might need support with the service that we're able to provide. It might be two questions, but I know.
No, I get it. I got you. I got you. I got you. All right. So when we're done, I will send you a link to an article I wrote in Forbes that was the simplest way I can describe getting clear on what your purpose is. Like I've had people read that and not even, they're like, I got it. Thank you for that article. So I have a process that is super intensive. It's 2 hours long. And so I came up with a framework that spells out power. The first thing you need is purpose clarity. And so how do you achieve that? And there's 3 questions I ask. 1, what is it that brings you joy? That if nobody paid you, or if you had all the money in the world, you would still do. 2, what is it that can transform your life and the life of others that you do effortlessly? And 3, would you still do it if nobody paid you? Would you still do it if you had all the money in the world? Would you still do it if it was underwhelming? And so the first part is usually I help my clients get clear. And it's always a rude awakening because they realize their purpose is this simple thing. They're like, that's it. It's not a disco ball. It's not some big party you're going to have. It's something simple. It might be your gift is to make people laugh. How do you package that? So the first thing is radical clarity on what your purpose is. The second thing is O for outstanding content. And so in this day and age of AI, I'm a nerd. I watch Revenge of the Nerds, I told you. So I'm all into AI. So I help my clients use AI and conventional ways to come up with outstanding content that helps them show up as thought leaders, as authentic as they can. And in the outstanding content, so this one I'm going to share real quick because I share it publicly, but I came up with a framework called the TWEAK method. Thought leadership content, what to do content, ideal identity connection content, quick help content. Study anybody you can for the last 15 years. I've been online since 1996. Everybody that is making an impact do those 4 things. They create content that helps them, positions them as a thought leader. And the way you do that is you think about what is it that my industry does that I fundamentally disagree with. What I'm offering that is better, that's your thought leadership position. And so for me, people do personal branding. What I'm offering that is better is purpose-driven, purpose-centered personal branding. And so that's my line in the sand. The W is for what to do content. That one positions you as the expert. This is where you get to brag about all the things you know, because then we see you as an expert. The I is for ideal identity. This is the personal stuff. This is the vulnerability. If you're a dad, sharing the stuff you're going through with your kids or your wife or your job. If you're a mom, all the things. This is the personal, emotional connection part. The Q is for quick help content. And that's about what can you give them to get them from A to B real quick for free. If they can see that, then it'll be easy for them to pay you. So I call that the TWEAK method. And so that's under the outstanding content. So that's how we develop content for my clients. The W is for wealth through purpose. How do you want to make money with this thing that you're called to do? And I find that most women that I worked with before I kind of changed their mind with my NLP thinking, is women have a hard time charging for the value of their services, not their worth, because you are priceless. So I don't talk about your worth. You are worthy, period. But in terms of the value of your services, women have a hard time charging for something that comes easy to them. So I help them feel real comfortable making money with that. And then the E is for the excellent launch. And that's the PR that I love. How do you tell your story? How do you launch yourself into the world? How do you make noise without feeling narcissistic or guilty about being in the spotlight? Because you're in the spotlight so that those you serve can see you. If you're not in the spotlight, they don't know you exist. So you being on TV, radio, on blogs, on podcasts is so that that one person that's looking for you that will spend that $100,000 is going to find you. And then the R is for rinse, repeat, and review. And that's where we get to review, okay, what worked, what didn't work. And through that, you come up with your success formula. So that's my framework. It's called the Purpose Power Blueprint. And so that's the process I take my clients through to get them from, confusion and stress and overwhelm and mom life to clarity and a better understanding of how you should move as your authentic self, having harmony, because it's not balance, right? Because there's never really balance. How do you have harmony with all parts of your life? And so I love what I do. Like I couldn't do anything else. I couldn't breathe if I did anything else. And so I'm honored to be in this space with you guys and to share my story. And thank you for listening.
Well, thank you for sharing, Yetunde. Thank you so much for all the service you're doing out there in the world. And it's so clear based on kind of how you formulated the personal brand thing, because I think it's a big pain point for, lots of us that are showing up online. Sometimes it's confusing around what is the right content that's going to serve others, but also position us well and do all those other things that you mentioned. And, a lot of the times the big struggle is always content that maybe converts people, because I always find that at the next step of the sales process is where we get to serve people the highest level and give them these beautiful transformations, just like you shared. So thank you so much for sharing that as well. And I would love for you to stick out until the end to get more info on where we can further connect with you. We just started this conversation today. That's what this event is as well. So thank you so much for that. And I would love to go to Jake Stahl next. Hi, Jake. Welcome.
Thank you. I had to find the mute button. Sorry about that.
You're all good.
I'm the type that needs a GPS to get to my bathroom at night, so finding the mute button is no big surprise. So my name is Jake Stahl. I have a large background in psychology. I'm master certified in neurolinguistic programming. And my goal in life is to get people to communicate better and understand the roles that conditioning and preconceived notions play when we're talking about ourselves and our businesses. So I do a lot of coaching with executives one-on-one. I do a lot of coaching with sales teams. And my beginning is kind of inauspicious. When I started in sales 30 years ago, one question always baffled me, and that was, how are you? We all ask each other, how are you? But we only really mean it in certain circles. So I started thinking about that and digging into the conditioning. And it's funny because I was shopping with my wife a couple of weeks ago and I walked by a gentleman and our eyes met. And I just nodded and I said, hey. And he goes, fine, thanks. How are you? Conversation never took place. So it's amazing how conditioned we are for certain things. And to give all of you a quick exercise, think about the last time you looked at your cell phone, somebody was calling you, and you thought to yourself, oh, I just don't have time for this right now. A name came to all of your heads. A picture came to all of your heads of who that person is. And we get that conditioning so strongly that it often blocks us from becoming a success. Even if we're conditioned to be sedentary, it's conditioning us to the point where we need to get by it. So I got fascinated by this. I became a speaker on the topic and on training and development. And I've spoken in 47 states. I've trained in 6 different countries. I currently live in Norwich, Connecticut. And then what brought me here, I'll be perfectly open and honest with all of you. I had a surgery about 10 years into my run as a speaker and author. And I became addicted to opioids after the surgery. For about 2 years, I struggled really, really hard. And I will be honest with you, when I looked at it at the time, I thought, this is just the way it's going to be. And now I look back on it, and it was the single most transformational moment of my entire life. So I went through the rehab route. As of June, I am 12 years clean. And so I reach out to people from NA and AA, and I help them communicate who they are and what happens with them behind the scenes better than they are now. The thing that gets me is that the groups that I've met over the years in recovery are probably the most honest people on the planet. They've got nothing left to hide, nothing left to lie about. And it brings forth a trust and a bonding with the people that really makes a difference. So over the years, I've created what I call an adaptive conversational blueprint that I talk to companies about, sales teams about, CEOs about, that allows them to create a blueprint of conversations, how to build trust in the first 2 to 3 minutes, how to gain interest by being interested. And one of the main techniques is not talking about yourself at all for the first 2 or 3 minutes of a conversation. Get the other person to open up, form that bond. And what I found over the years working with companies is that this not only helps salespeople because it helps them connect and not actually sell, but it helps the customer service connect and be more empathetic. So I've co-authored a book. I'm working on another book, starting 2 podcasts on the topic. And I'm just really excited to be here with all of you visionaries today. I don't want to take up too much room because I want to hear what everybody else has to say. But that's my journey from where I've been and where I've come to. Currently self-employed through Jake Stahl Consulting. I've done fractional chief learning officer work for the past 10 years. And my job is to help people connect better.
Well, Jake, thank you so much for sharing a beautiful journey with us and your purpose, right? And I always say, at least this is what I've seen in my personal life and also the people that I've supported, that our purpose sometimes stems from our passion or our pain, right? And both of those are really the catalyst to the work that we choose, work that is meaningful to us, and the way that we're in service to others. So thank you so much for sharing what you do and the amazing work that you're doing out there. I love the topic that you cover because I think communication is the most important bit, and trust building are the 2 pillars of any relationships, whether you are in a business setting with your teams and your cultures, at home with your loved ones. Communication is such an important skill or an art, so to speak, that most of us have to really understand how to navigate it so that we can have, the health and the wholeness and the happiness, because, research has shown that happiness comes from relationships, the quality of our relationships. So can you share with us, same question for you. I'm always a student of patterns and processes and things that you've also seen with you sharing this work with other people and the impact that it's had on others. What are some principles that you can share with us around healthy communication within our teams and within our, personal relationships as well, that you have learned based on your own unique, authentic journey?
There's a couple of things. The first is try to be more interested than be interesting. I have found that when you take a dramatic interest in somebody else, where you listen so intently that you literally could repeat back what they're saying, it creates a different bond with someone. And if you're not real careful, somebody was saying earlier about dating yourself. I watched Fat Albert a lot as a kid, and the thing he always used to say was, if you're not careful, you might learn something. So that's always kind of stuck with me. The second thing is, and I'm advocating and writing a book on this right now, I think there is such thing as conversational cadence. And a lot of times cadence is more important than the content. So until I've established that I can listen to you, I can actively interact with you, gain interactions, summarize what you've said, really the content doesn't matter. So the content in the beginning of a conversation isn't near as effective until later on in a conversation. So I teach people a lot about how to do your reach outs. If you're doing cold reach outs, how to be interested versus interesting. And a miracle happens along the way. If you're truly interested enough in another person, I can guarantee you they will be interested in you. It's just a miracle that takes place. And I found that to be the case just about 100% of the time.
Mm. I love it because at the end of the day, I think one of the values that most companies try to instill, you know, within whether we're solopreneuring all the way to the different phases of growing our purpose and our profits and our companies, is always the care model, right? And for, you know, sometimes it's just something that's hanging on the wall. But if you're just showcasing that in the way that we're behaving, at the end of the day, we all just want to feel heard and seen. And if you show care for me, I'll show care for you back. And that's how we build, you know, healthy relationships, companies, you know, homes also, right? So thank you so much for sharing that. Jake,
thank you for having me.
For what you do. And thank you for the service to the world and what you just shared thus far. Absolutely. I'll come back to you at the end as well. And I would love to go to, I have Lorna Sherland next. Lorna, welcome.
Thank you, Elona, and thank you for having me here with this illustrious set of leaders. Oh my gosh. On fire, Yutende, Dr. Cheryl, Jake, you guys are just, I felt like you all were a culmination of the stuff that I create in the world. My name is Lorna Sherland, and I help female entrepreneurs to create the right vetted connections and strategic partnerships to grow their leads and their income. Because what does everybody want? More money. Why do they want more money? To do more good in the world. Money touches everything in our lives. So whatever we are doing in the world, we got to have money to do it. Even if it's to build a well in Africa, right? If it's to get rid of sex trafficking in the world, we all need money, but you need to know how to close. So Jake, thank you for sharing and thank you for doing what you do, because closing a sale is one of the most important things. It's not just a sale, it's a person, it's a life. So I'm excited to be here. I typically talk about connections, but before connections comes vision. I love what Yutende shared, because Yutende gets people the clarity. Before clarity comes vision. So my story started with coming to from Jamaica here with $50, no vision, $50, because that's the only amount of money that the country would allow us to leave with. How was I going to survive? I was here in this country, not knowing anything, how to do anything. I worked in Jamaica, that it didn't translate into America. I had to figure it out, right? So I love the thought of creating a vision to create a life. And this is my mission in life, is to help people to find their vision so that they can create a life that they love. Thank you for having me here.
Well, Lorna, you're absolutely in the right room. Thank you so much for sharing that. I have two things that came up for me based on the work that you're doing: connection and strategic partnerships. We're in the age that we're understanding that collaboration, human relationships, there's enough for all of us. We're living in an abundant universe. The more of us are getting conscious, waking up, we're understanding that we can absolutely help move our visions forward with more people around us that are uniquely gifted, and we're complementing one another in different faucets or avenues. So how do we connect? How do we connect with the right strategic partners? What is it that we need to be looking for? And how do we ensure that those partnerships are sustainable and they're win-win for both parties, so they're successful and we're adding value to both, you know, to both parties in a very healthy way?
Again, thank you for that question, Elona. And again, the first thing is to really have a clear vision of what you want the relationship to look like, right? It's just like a marriage, right? You got to have, well, as a divorcee, yes, it's like a marriage. When I went into my marriage, I didn't have a clear vision, hence a divorce. Yes. So it's the same concept. You got to have a clear vision of what you want the relationship to look like. You got to have a clear vision from day one when you're connecting to the person. What value do you bring to the table? Right? It gets to be a win-win at all times. So a lot of times people go into relationships, especially business relationships, with, you know, what's in it for me, right? Not thinking, well, okay, how can we work together? Most people go into a relationship with what's called a taker energy. They go to take, they don't go to give. And here's the thing, we live in a universe of laws, right? There's no one-sided coin. If you're going to be a taker, you got to be a giver. It has to get balanced out. That's just how the world works. That's how the universe works. So the first thing to do is have that clear vision. Right? Then with a clear vision, you're going to know which connections you get to engage in when you are in an environment even like this, right? You listen to people, you think about how their character, you got to get to know them, you got to know whether or not their character is strong, because you're going to need, in a relationship, you need a strong character to lead that relationship. You got to know if they even have self-leadership, right? If you have no self-leadership, it's going to be kind of hard for you to stay in the relationship, do your part in the relationship so that whatever the end goal is realized by all parties. So I think that those are some of the small about when you're getting into a relationship with a strategic partner. It gets to be a win-win. You got to add value, and you got to know the end result that you're looking for all parties involved.
Well, thank you so much for answering that, Lorna, and sharing your wisdom with us. I think clarity, I love that a lot of you already like common theme. Clarity is power, because even when you know what you're looking for, you don't waste your time and you don't waste other people's time, right? And we all are understanding the value of time. I don't know if it's just me, but I'm like, oh my gosh, they never taught us that this is the most important thing. We can always make money. We can always do the other things, which are really a byproduct of this clarity and the vision. I love that you mentioned that, because when you have vision, you don't make short-term decisions. You're
Exactly.
always looking at people as humans, and at different phases and stages of our evolution, just like with our personal life, not all relationships are going to be relationships that we carry over. So just stay open to that, and be patient with one another. But it all starts with integrity and clarity, so that those relationships are healthy, and we're going into these relationships for the right reason, just like personal life as well. I also got into a long-term relationship very early on. I'm still married 20 years, thankfully, but through each of those stages, if I knew what I know now, it's all about you having that clarity as a person and what you want in your life, so that you start to connect with the right people as well, energetically, not just strategically. So marrying both. Thank you so much, Lorna, for all the amazing work you're doing as well.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
I'd love to call on Jaina Middleton. I hope I'm saying your first name correct.
It's okay, it's Janina.
Janina, welcome.
Thank you for having me. So my name is Janina Barham Middleton, and the thing that got me here, I think I will say that I'm the one in my family that absolutely everyone comes to decipher anything. If it's paperwork, if it's some new process, they need advice about something, I'm the one to that they come to. And so I kind of meandered through, my background is in education, and in all of the jobs and, all of the businesses that I've opened, there's always been an educational component. I think education is really important, especially in entrepreneurship. There's for people starting out, which is the bulk of my business right now, is helping entrepreneurs starting or just kind of like right in the middle of their businesses, is providing them with the proper education. You can go online and the internet will give you tons of information that does not make sense for your business, or it doesn't, particularly go with like the state that you're in. And everyone will give you just enough information, but not enough to get you to where where you need to go. And so, I basically created a business around that education and support that I needed when I was starting out. And because I'm really good at deciphering things, it was a little easier for me, but that's not the case for many entrepreneurs. And so I really love being, being that support for entrepreneurs, helping them with their foundation. I think foundation is, again, education and foundation is super important to entrepreneurship for your success. And, I consider myself the fertilizer of your business. When you're just starting out, you have that thought, you have that seed of idea, and you're like, I really want to make sure that I plant it in fertile ground, and I make sure that I can build this into the major tree of my business. But oftentimes you don't know where to plant that. And so being able to support entrepreneurs in building that out, giving them the foundation that they need, talking to them about what their business plan is, talking to them about what their vision is, what their mission is. Faith is very important to me. And, again, making sure that, if faith is important to them, are they building that into their business? Because that is a driving force. And so that should also be something that you're talking about and putting into every facet, of your business. And so that's kind of what I do in a nutshell, is just giving the support that entrepreneurs need to move to the next level.
I love this. I love the mission of educating, because I always say, right, bridging the gap between education and then implementation. But unless you know what you need to know, how is it that you know what is the right decision for you to make to get you to the other side based on, what everybody's goals is. So I love that you shared that. And the piece that I also very attracted to is the fundamentals, because just like anything, if you want to build something that's sustainable, you want to make sure that your roots and your the root cause and the things that you need to be building over time are the right priorities for you, as well as implementing the right values for you, because business like you are like humans, right? They complement, they mirror us personally, the founders, and then as we go, grow and scale with our cultures, and usually that also mirrors the values and also the principles that people will operate under. So, Janina, my question for you is around fundamentals. What are some of those important pieces and fundamentals that someone needs to know when they're maybe just starting out their business, that you also wish somebody would have told you or gave you sort of like a roadmap around, okay, here's the things that you focus on, and then your mission becomes to connect the dots on those details on how to implement those bigger fundamentals. I think you touched on a few of them, but kind of what is your framework around fundamentals? How do you now support your clients?
So I think really, oftentimes for many businesses, we have an idea and you jump right into it and you just kind of start out going, oh, I'm gonna start my business, create my LLC, create my corporation, and go. And really and don't ever think about a business plan or what that financial pieces look like until you need to look for money. And so what I really try and work with clients is, let's you have this idea, you have this vision, but what does that look like on paper, right? What is that to its fullest extent? And sometimes you don't realize until you start writing those things down and putting them out there, you don't see the fullness of it. And so I love to, one of the things I start with clients is, let's talk about your business plan. Have you even written that out? And have you even put in all of the things? Sometimes people are like, well, I just want to talk about this one piece, but there's so many facets to their business, so many facets to what they want to bring out to the world, and that they don't even put that in there. And I always use, think of your business plan as the roadmap to your business's journey. So where are you going to go? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Where do you see yourself in 6 months? But this is the place where you need to put that down and to really see it, because then by being able to write it down and see it, you can actually bring it into fruition. And then it makes more sense. And, the other piece is that is, is again, the money piece is really thinking about like, so in actuality, like how many customers do you see yourself, like what do you want to make? What do you, what is your bottom line? And then really how many customers, how many clients do you need to see to make that up, right? Like we can say, I project to make $1 million. Okay, that's great. But like, what does that look like in reality, right? Like how many sales do you have to make? How many clients or things that you have to sell if you're a retail business to really make that happen? And so really just kind of sitting down and building those things out, I think is important, because then that helps people to really, again, materialize and make that happen for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. The business plan is a roadmap, but also adaptability and agility and a lot of intuition in the process for sure. But yeah, I mean, knowing the fundamental, I think is so important. I wish somebody would have told me in my first company, which went nowhere, because I didn't know what I didn't know, right? So I think it's powerful to learn from one another, and again, helping people shorten their time span to be able to create the impact, create the income that they're looking for. I think it's really important. Thank you so much for what you just shared and the amazing work that you're doing out there in the world as well.
Thank you.
All right, I would love to call on Barbara, the Soul Igniter. Barbara, what's your last name? Barbara, right?
Yes, but nobody can pronounce my last name, so I almost never use it. My last name is Schouten, and anyone outside of the Netherlands cannot pronounce it, so...
Perfect. So you just share links and we'll follow you and further connect with you. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And where are you based? And the same question for you. What is it that you do, some meaningful moments in your journey?
Thank you for having me. I am currently nomading. So I travel Europe at the moment with my van, and I am anywhere and nowhere. In particular, at the moment, I'm in the Netherlands because I needed to visit some family. But I am living my dream life, basically. And I never thought that that was possible, because when I was younger, when I was young, not younger, young, I got told very often, oh, but you are way too sensitive and you really need to grow a thicker skin and you shouldn't take everything so personal, and you really need to learn how to let things go. And I was bullied a lot in school. I was also abused at home. And all of these things combined made me feel that I was not okay the way I am. And I seriously doubted my worth, if I was lovable. And there was a huge part of my life where I thought, I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. I need to fix something. And all of these things did not really lead to feeling very happy or very fulfilled. And I did what everybody does when they grow up and they hear you need to get a good education, find a good job, find a partner to marry, and then, live the life, do the job until you retire. And that's about it. And I really tried for most of my life. I tried very hard to be what I thought everybody wanted me to be, to fit in, to be liked, to be loved, to have a job, to have a relationship. And long story short, in 2010, it ended me up in a severe burnout where I just lost my shit to a very big, very important client. And the client hung up crying. And I also could not stop crying. And it just an accumulation of all the things that had happened before. And that was the moment where I just knew I cannot keep doing this, but I also didn't know what else to be doing. And that set me off on my journey of self-discovery. And along the way, I learned a lot of different things about myself. And for one, I am a highly sensitive person. I am also an empath. I identify with words like black sheep, trailblazer, unicorn, alien, misfit, rebel. Hippie, and just plain weird and strange. And where I used to think that that was a big problem, being weird, being strange, I now think I'm weird and I'm strange and I'm loving it. And that is in essence the thing that I do with the people that come to me, because for me, it's all about discovering who you truly are so that you can step into what you came here to do. So I help black sheep, rebels, empath, highly sensitive people, trailblazers, misfits, and unicorns to unlock their human potential through deep inner healing and self-empowerment so that they can love and accept themselves deeply, step into their zone of genius, feel seen, heard, and understood, and finally live a life and 99% of the time have a business that makes them feel happy and fulfilled. And this is based on my personal journey. And one of the things I think that sets me apart is that I am very direct. I am very honest. I come from a place of love. And the key signature program that I've designed is called Be You by Design. In it, I combine human design and the gene keys to give people insight into their unique blueprint, who they really are. It allows them also to see their shadow pattern. So some people call it shadow work. You could call it shadow work. So it's about getting to know yourself on a very deep level. I call it getting to know your user manual and everything that makes you you, so that you can start healing those parts of yourself, shine a light on the shadows within yourself, really understand their dynamics, understand your role in it, understand what your purpose is, what your life path is, why the things keep happening that keep happening to you, and then how to turn everything around so that you can step into the driver's seat of your life and start following your calling or living the life of your dreams. There are so many terms that I could call the end result of working with me, but in general, it allows people to live a life of effortlessness where they don't feel like life takes effort, or working takes effort, running a business takes effort, being yourself is taking effort, where everything's just effortless. Yeah, I cannot find another word for it.
Oh, amen. Well, let it be easy for sure. Well, another rebel here. Always misunderstood, misunderstood soul. Yeah, I love the work you do in helping other people ignite their soul, because there's so much of what you shared that I think a lot of us can resonate with. When we're living in unconscious environments, right? We don't always get the people around us that can honor us for who we really are. And if we're misunderstood, we usually are judged, unfortunately. So
Yes.
definitely the mission, the light, the work that you're doing in the world to help people really find that, what ignites your soul, that kind of transfers everywhere. I say that's like everything else, then it'll be a byproduct, all the success,
Yes.
all the money, all the whatever is it that people want, which is traditionally what's been fed to us, in the society level. So thank you so much for doing this work as well and for sharing today.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I can't believe we have a couple of more speakers, but with every event, it's crazy how I'm actually an introvert, but from every event I do, from these kind of conversations, which are no pressure, just at ease, just flowing, just people connecting with one another, I only get more energized with each one. So I thank you all for sharing whatever you just did from your heart, and looking forward to connecting with more amazing speakers and purpose-driven entrepreneurs. So I would love to go to Ligia Gutierrez next. Ligia, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this event. And I have learned from everyone who has spoken before me. So thank you so much. I've been taking notes down, so it's just been wonderful. So I'm Ligia Gutierrez, and I'm with Love Your Mission Leadership and Career Coaching. And so I have over 30 years of leadership and management experience. And I ended up going into coaching when and I'll take you back a little bit. There was an incident when I was working at a nonprofit that I was there. I loved the job that I did. And I was at a meeting, and I somehow, wearing these crazy wedges, turned around to open the door for someone. I fell, landed on my wrist, and I broke my wrist. And because I'm such a workaholic, I stayed in the meeting for 3 hours. I didn't know my wrist was broken, but I was in such pain, but I felt that I needed to stay in the meeting. And then after I realized that I had broken my arm, the meeting finally ended, but I still didn't leave. Then I went after that. I continued to work in this position that really was overwhelming. And I know that someone mentioned that I also had gone through burnout, and that had happened to me. It wasn't until I decided that, what am I doing here? Why am I continuing to put myself through the work and being overwhelmed with the work, that I finally left and said, I can't do this anymore. I had no plan. I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I decided to, well, you know what? I'll just go get my master's in management and leadership. Still didn't know what I was doing. But what I didn't realize that I was doing to myself is that I kept listening to my inner critics. I knew the job that I was doing, and I did a great job doing it. But because of the inner critics, the hyperachiever pushed me to always do more than I needed to do. The avoider helped me, and I'm saying helped in quotes, by not listening to my self, my health, not paying attention to that I was not taking good care of myself, that I was not, that I didn't have to be a super mom to my kids. I didn't have to do all that. So that was my avoider doing that. And then the pleaser, I was always trying to do things for everyone. And I wasn't taking, again, good care of myself. And so with all of that, understanding that, I finally realized that I needed to take care of myself and get inner clarity. And that's what I help now. Those clients that I work with as who are looking for a new position, who are midlifers looking for a new position, who are trying to figure out what they're going to do, or they're solopreneurs trying to figure out what it is to do. I have realized that it's not just knowing everything of maybe your new career or what you're going to do, but you have to know that saboteurs that are messing with you in your head, tackle them first, because if we don't tackle them, they're going to help us not do what we need to do. So for example, mine is high avoider. So one of the things that at the very beginning of my business and trying to do this is that I didn't want to be on social media. I didn't want to put my face forward. I didn't want people to know that I was doing this work. And that was my avoider yelling, going, no, 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 Licia, don't do that. Don't do that. What if people are going to think about you? But my high achiever was saying, no, you really have to do some of this work. Otherwise, how are people going to know that you're doing the work that you're doing? And so now I work with my clients to realize that we got to work on your inner critics so that you can move forward in what you're doing. Knowing what those dominant inner critics are will help you move forward into realizing this is the career I want to do, or I am in an environment that's not healthy for me, that I'm not in a position that values my worth. And so it's time to leave. But because those inner saboteurs are saying, whoa, but then what are you going to do? Especially for midlifers who are afraid of leaving a position that they've been in it for a long time. And then they're afraid of ageism or afraid of going to do something completely new or starting a business, like a number who are here are doing that. But those inner saboteurs really, really do a number on our self-doubt and our self-esteem. And so I work with clients who work on that while then determining what it is that they want to do as a career.
Wow, I love this. Like, yeah, so timely. And yeah, the avoider right here. I have to go on a lot of that stuff, and it's always showing up. But I think that's the self-work that it will show up in other ways. And the evolution always continues. There's no such thing as we're done, you know. I'm like, I've looked for that. I'm like, I'm tired of doing a lot of the inner work, but that's because obviously, you know, we can get tired in our journey, and that's okay too. And getting support and taking a break sometimes and being patient. I think it's important. At least for me, I've kind of just also learned how to let myself off the hook certain times so I don't pressure myself, because that was my coping mechanism. Like, yeah, I think the question that's coming up for me to you today that I think might serve lots of people that might be in this challenging economic times as well with our businesses, because I see this all the time, that sometimes you might need to reposition yourself based on the work you do, and maybe position yourself for more of a steady income, full-time career somewhere. Hopefully that it aligns with the work that you want to do in the world. But I would love to get your insight around what are some steps that somebody listening today, if that's the route that they might need to take temporarily, where is it that they can get started? And how is it that they can continue to do the work they love with their business while their business continues to grow, so they don't let go of their bigger vision and the bigger mission that they're after, but they can, make a strategic decision maybe at this time that they might be, needing financial stability, because I definitely know there's a lot of people going through this right now. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so one is that okay that if it is a part-time job, it's okay to take a part-time job, to not have to go in and going, oh gosh, I have to go right into a full-time position. However, one of the main things you have to do is look at your resume. And on your resume, if your resume reads as a job description, we need to fix that. It needs to read as accomplishments. And if you've been doing your side gig now, or you've been doing this work as a coach or whatever, and that's the position that you've had now for several years now, then in there, identify what are some of those key things that you've learned. Not only have you been doing marketing, not only have you been doing working with others, communication skills, there's a number of transferable skills, so identifying those transferable skills to build up that resume. So in that, find those key accomplishments. And I typically ask my clients, let's identify 3 to 5 of them within your resume. If you've had a career break, if you haven't, that it's okay to put career break on that resume. And then adding some more, and I'll tell you quick on your resume is that on your top one, your career profile, 6 seconds. It's what will take for someone to read that. So it's really needs to read those rich history of what it is. And one of the tips that I would give you is look at your resume and identify how many years have you been doing this. Really do a timeline. You'd be surprised how much work and that you have done in your history that you could use to be transferable skills into a position that you have. So really be aware of your resume. And if you need help, that's where a career coach could help. Like someone like me, I could help you doing that. The other is your LinkedIn profile. If you haven't built your LinkedIn profile, that is very important. So making sure that you have the right profile image there, that your banner has something on the banner that represents you and the position that you're trying to go for. Do not put open for work on that. Don't do that. But really build up your about area in your LinkedIn profile about the position that you're trying to find. So build up your career and what you're doing there. So those are some of the tips. There's a lot more, but those are some things that I could just share quickly.
Yeah, I love those. And you might need to get creative. I mean, we learned this to be resourceful in the journey, but do a lot of the inner work around quitting and failing, right? Because I think that's another big thing for a lot of people. It just bumps in the road and we just adapt, right? Doesn't mean that obviously if you don't have the right support of the business, there's always people that are able to support that. But I've always been a pragmatist also, and I've been able to harmonize both things, right? Strategy is great, we should be problem solving for the right problems, but also there's other things that we can work on. So aligning things, I think it's really important, and harmonizing things. I like this word better than balancing or kind of just doing things one way or another. There's no such thing. There's always colors and different ways that we can creatively problem solve based on where everyone is in the journey. Thank you also for sharing what you just did, yeah.
My pleasure.
All right, I would love to go to Andrew Fraser. Andrew, thanks so much for being here. Looking forward to getting to know you and a few of the most meaningful moments in your journey.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for having me on, Elona, and thanks to all the guests. You shared some great stuff. Dr. Cheryl, I like your 5 A's. Janet, your gift. Zone of Genius. Jake, I love Dale Carnegie, and what you're sharing is in line with what he's doing. And definitely great stuff. One thing I've found is that most entrepreneurs are woefully unprepared for what they're trying to do. And that's just because there's so many things you need to learn to be successful in business. And it's impossible to know them all, but you have to continually learn, and you have to learn at a really fast pace. So, as a result, most business owners aren't achieving the goals that they've set out to achieve. Their business may not be growing, they may not be making enough money, but that doesn't have to be the case. That's one of the reasons why I created Small Business Pro University, really a way to help people gain the knowledge and expertise they need to move forward successfully in business. My name's Andrew Frazier. I worked one-on-one with over 1,000 business owners, helping them to grow, sell more, make more, and get financing when they need it as a business coach, consultant, and trainer for the past 15 years full time. And with that experience, along with working, being an executive, being a naval officer, having a degree in engineering, and having 4 businesses, I've seen things from the entrepreneur side. I've seen it from working for a company side, and I've seen things from helping other people be able to move forward in their business. And that's why I wrote, I've written 3 books: Running Your Small Business Like a Pro, and the Masterpreneur Playbook, my most recent one, lays out the 5-step program for taking your business from startup to scaling. And there's 5 steps every business has to go through to make it to scaling. But unfortunately, most businesses get stuck in between the first and second step. The first step is working on the concept of your business, which is key. Janae, you talked about getting people the foundation. That's when you build the foundation for your business. The second step, working in your business. Once you get started, once you start making some sales, the next step, working on your business. Everybody knows how you're supposed to work on the business, but most people never do it successfully. And most people, many times, it's very elusive understanding even what that means. So less than 5% of people get beyond that step. And then to scale, you got to work on the future of your business and work on scaling your business. But that's not enough, as a business owner. So I call that the Masterpreneur path, but there's also a Masterpreneur evolution. You as a business owner have to evolve through every single stage. So, there's 5 stages of evolution, and you really have to develop new skills every stage, and really a new role to be able to move your business forward. So, so those are some of the key things that it really takes to be able to move your business forward. But let me just leave you with, working with all these business owners, the biggest problem, most 90% of all the challenges they have is the business owners aren't selling enough. So, it's critical to be able to develop your sales and marketing skills. Most people just go out there and sell and market. But that's your most important job as a business owner. So you need to learn how to do it well, exceptionally well, because that's going to drive the success of your business. I think it's critical to understand that. Many business owners don't understand that, and just learning how to develop your skills. Yetunde, you talked about your marketing. I've done all kinds of marketing myself, and I would say get some help, because there's a lot to it, and get someone like Yetunde, because there's art to it that and a lot of nuances that you probably won't be able to figure out on your own. So, so
Andrew.
Yes.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Did you have anything else to add?
So I was just going to say, if I leave you with nothing else, you should spend 2 hours every day on marketing and selling your business.
Well, thank you for all the amazing work that you're doing, because I think it's so timely. And again, if people are putting their purpose into the channel of entrepreneurship, I think it's important for them to understand that at different phases and stages of scaling a company, there's different problems that we solve. In life, we're always trading problems, right? But it's good problems. Hopefully, we get better quality problems as we scale, and we learn to focus on the right things. But I love that you mentioned marketing and sales, because it's the heart of any business. You can be amazing at what you do. You can have a very clear purpose around what you do, even an amazing offer, very unique, very niche, bigger transformation, all those benefits that your market is looking for. But if you don't focus on the right priorities at the right time, you could be solving the wrong problem. I know, like, a big pain point for myself too, because I have such a big vision. That was also my blind spot. I wanted to scale at the beginning of my journey, and I focused on a business model that needed one to many. I'm like, I didn't even have people that knew me yet. So just focusing on the right thing, I think, is really important, so people don't get frustrated, and they eventually, hopefully not, quit on their purpose. I think that would be the worst of this. So thank you so much, Andrew, for what you do as well, and for sharing today.
Thanks for having me.
I'd love to call on Anjana Ferguson next. Anjani, is that how I say your name?
Can you hear me? You guys hear me? It's Anjanae. Yep, Anjanae Ferguson. So glad to be here. Before I even jump into who I am or all of those things, I just want to say thank you so much to Elona and the Life School. Can we just get a round of applause for just putting on an incredible event and having so many visionary leaders in the room? And then I just want to take a second to just take a deep breath, shake it out, right? Everybody come back to your bodies, do all of those things. We haven't had any movement since Dr. Shell's dance moves in the beginning. So just give yourself a little space to move. And so, I'm going to take you quickly through some 3 defining moments for me that really helped me get into my career. But before all of that, I'm Anjanae Ferguson, aka the Christian Biz Boss. And today I want to speak to you about operations and how to operate an overflow in your business, so that you and your organization can experience the freedom and flexibility no matter how big that you grow. Because more clients and more money doesn't have to mean more stress. Does that sound good to y'all? Does that sound good to everybody? And so I want to take you through, just to answer the question, 3 pivotal moments for me that got me so invested in this work, and helped me figure out why it is that I love what I do. And so we're going to start first with a flashback to 2018. I was a new hire at a local university. I got hired as a marketing writer, so a completely different field than I'm in now, in their marketing and communications department. And in that role, we did all of the internal and external marketing for the university. So heavy on what we were talking about already, marketing is incredibly important, right? And so the internal marketing was everything on campus, the signage, the event postings, and all of the events like Spirit Weeks and things like that. And then the external marketing was everything we did to find students. So billboards, commercials, all of those things. We had an incredibly crazy portfolio. And so I felt like a little fish in a big pond that really had to prove myself, right? Has anybody ever felt like that they needed to prove they were worthy of the space they were in? And so besides all of the work that we had to do, I was the youngest person in the department. I was the only woman of color. It was only my second big girl job out of college. So it was very, very new for my career. And someone had mistakenly let it slip that I was a Hail Mary hire. And so they only hired me because I was close in age to the prospective students that we were trying to reach. They didn't actually expect me to do my job well. So I really, really felt like I needed to prove myself, and I needed to go above and beyond to claim my space and show my worth in that space. But they were only giving me this kind of insignificant work. Literally, I was proofreading text messages that we were sending out to remind people to come to events. So an opportunity popped up called Day of Giving, which was our annual fundraising day. And it was the time where the university all came together, parents, alumni, donors, everyone that was a part of the community, to raise as much money as we possibly could in one day. So I thought this was my chance. I'm like, guys, I want to do this. Please, please, please let me do this. Let me jump in. And so coming into it, I had to kind of take a new approach. This was the 5th year that they'd been doing it. They hadn't really seen any growth in the past 2 years that they've been doing it. So it was a pivotal moment about whether or not they even be continuing the event. And so I came in with a 4-step framework. I came in, I took a step back. We looked at what was working and what was not working, got organized, created processes and workflows for every single thing that we did, found and closed all of the gaps. So we looked at all of the handoffs in the processes to see where we were leaking any kind of resources. And then we reaped the rewards, right? And so in that event, we went from 231,000 the year prior, and I believe the year prior was still in that 200 and maybe 16,000 range, and we raised $472,000. So just by doing that quick framework, we were able to double what we were bringing in. And so I finally felt like I proved myself, and maybe a little bit too well, because if you guys know the phrase, no good deed goes unpunished, I ended up taking on and expanding all of the project management for all of the events that we were doing in the department. And so fast forward to 2021, which was or 2020, which was my second defining moment. At that point, I was still a marketing writer. I was handling all of the portfolios for admissions and all of the fundraising events. So undergraduate admissions, graduate admissions, alumni fundraisers, homecoming, graduation, prospective parent communication, and of course, Day of Giving, which at that point we had scaled to over $1 million. And so between these two portfolios, I had over 100 tasks, events, and projects, and I found myself bursting at the seams. And not just me, my team itself was bursting at the seams as well. So I had to take a little page out of my own playbook and use my framework again, take a step back, figure out what's working and what's not working, get organized. So in this instance, we decided to upgrade our systems to softwares that were going to help us do the work, find gaps. So we stood up new analytics and new reporting, and then reap the rewards. And so we ended up figuring out between 2 new softwares, how our team was producing, what everyone was doing. We were able to increase our visibility for what we were doing to the board. We were able to get more done in less time because we were restructuring better, and the entire team was better because of it. And so the reward for me was that I got a promotion. So excited to become the assistant director of marketing in that department. Still the youngest, still the only woman of color, still juggling this crazy portfolio. And so fast forward to my third defining moment, which was June of 2021. I felt this call from God, like, you're doing great work here, but the great work that you're doing needs to touch more lives. And so I decided to start my business, branched out and left my 9-to-5, started my own business, which is Amper Business Solutions. And since then, I've been helping clients all around the world do things like help Jamaican career coaches, help Jamaicans find work placement in Japan, helping nonprofits scale from one location to nationwide reach, helping people create courses and amazing programs like the one that we're in right now. But again, found myself bursting at the seams, trying to juggle one-on-one work and make the ends meet with the time that I had in the day. So what do you guys think I did? Of course, take a page out of my own framework, take a step back, figure out what's working and what was not working, get organized, document my processes that I took my one-on-one clients through, find and close gaps. So for me, it was going from one to one to many and starting operating an Overflow Academy, which is my academy, and then reap the results. And so I found that my zone of genius lies in that get organized and that find and close gaps area, right? It's my zone of genius. It's my spiritual gift. It's my vocation to help visionary leaders like ourselves do those nitty gritty things that help them implement and streamline their processes so they're not leaking things within their business. And so there's a lot of coaches out there teaching you how to do more, how to be more, how to make more. And those coaches are incredible. If you want that coach, go to Andrew. That's not my twist. But I am here to help you make the most out of every single thing that you already have at your fingertips by taking a step back, figuring out what's working and what's not working, getting organized, and then finding and closing your gaps. So I'm here to help you guys reap all your rewards.
I love your story. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it's really important. Yeah, I mean, kudos to you for the work that you're doing and the way that also your life experiences are leading you to help people with operations and the organizational piece of their business, because there's no way that you can scale if you're doing a million things all over the place. The only way to scale is through systems and team anyway, at least thus far, what we know with AI and where everything is going. So I love that you have actually position yourself where your gift lies. I think that's another powerful pattern here that keeps repeating. You know, we might be skilled and we might have lots of experience, but not everything is something that illuminates our soul. And I think it's really important to follow our light in that respect as well. And of course, my question for you is something that most businesses are always looking for when they come to scale one to many. They scale their business model, I should say, one to many. Based on your experience that you share so eloquently around building an event and fundraising, what are some of the things that you have learned to help people to go from one to many, maybe with events or maybe with fundraising? Because I know I have a lot of visionary leaders in the room that were also very passionate about social causes. And some of us have organized that to be a nonprofit alongside our companies. Some of us are doing that full time. But I think this is very relevant for this audience as well. So what are some of those, what are your thoughts on kind of scaling one to many with events and fundraising? I just wanted to connect some of the dots in your journey based on what you shared.
For sure. And so I think a lot of it lies in starting with documenting your process. So people make it seem like getting organized is this really difficult thing that takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. But if you just take the time to record the steps that you're doing, and there's tons of softwares that can do it for you, right? Things like Tango that you can download on your computer and it'll copy your clicks, right? And so the first thing that you need to do is get organized by tracking your processes. So go through the process you would do to host a one-to-one event or a one-to-one program and make sure that all of those steps are in order. And so, you know, a lot of the time we have this thing that where we think we know everything or we think how we do things makes sense to the entire world. In literature, it's called dramatic irony, right? Where you know things that the characters in the book don't necessarily know. And so when we hand off our processes to other people, we may not see gaps because we know those things in our head. And so the second step that I encourage everyone to do is to pass off your process that you've documented to someone else and see if they can follow your steps the same way that you intended them to. Let them ask questions, let them raise red flags, tell you what doesn't make sense to them, because it'll help you see and understand your work from a new light and a new perspective. Once you've gone through it yourself and documented it, gone through it with someone else and had them help you document it even further, then you put it in an automated system to help you deliver it at scale, right? And so you've done the work of cloning yourself, essentially, getting all of that work done. You can either put it in either an automated system or a container for people to go through themselves. And now you've taken the ability to be in more than one place at once to clone yourself and get more things done in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And working smart, because a lot of the things that we're doing, if we just, stay aware and get that clarity around what are those tasks that don't light me up, what are those, things, then you can create positions, right? You can create roles, and that's how you know how to delegate and move forward. So I think it's really important to also understand, where is it that we're spending our time? Because I know time management is a big challenge for lots of entrepreneurs, because we always got a million things happening around us. So again, thank you for your service and the amazing work that you're doing. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Well, beautiful. I would love to go to Jennifer Regular next. Jennifer, thanks so much for coming on, and good to see you again.
Oh, good to see you and all of you that I'm meeting for the first time. I've been sitting here, an hour and a half now, listening to some amazing, amazing visionaries. And I love this opportunity. It's such an amazing community to where we get to come together in unity and really commune with each other. And I love these kind of events because this is what I find we have such a deep call to. Now it's not so much about our individual missions anymore. It's about our collective mission, collective transformation, creating that profound impact together. And so, yeah, really grateful to be here, and I'm super excited. And I am in the West Coast of Canada, so Canadian-born, South African roots. And I work virtually online, a bit of a nomadic existence like Barbara as well, and tried a lot of different jobs and possibilities and potentialities throughout my life, a lot of it in social services, and seeing all the different ways that people's spirit becomes crushed and all the barriers and conditioning that don't support our highest potential. And this actually started for me when I was a really young age. It was actually when I was 10 years old, observing the world very differently from my peers, really taking it in as an empath, as some others have spoken about, and just observing the way that people treat each other and the institutions and authorities that create these expectations or ways of being that may not necessarily be in alignment with who we truly are. And so I started making notes about this, age 10, wanting to call this book that I was writing, When Society Determines Your Destiny. And for 30 years beyond that, I recognized how much society does do that, and how much even our own inner voices that are actually the voices of others and their beliefs and expectations can create this fog being an acronym for fear, obligation, and guilt, that obscures our vision and dims, our light and what we came here to do and who we actually are. And so when I actually published that book 30 years later, it wasn't When Society Determines Your Destiny. It's called Embrace Your Power, a healing journal of self-discovery. And it shared in there some different experiences and teachings and questions and prompts that take us into a pilgrimage of our heart and what's really true for us and coming in to alignment. And during that, that span, I was in 16 different positions in the healing helping profession. And alongside that, got into the healing arts profession as well as an entrepreneur, working side by side with that. And I was testing out all these different organizations that supposedly led with certain pillars and a mission statement, and felt like I had aligned with that, and then realized that I quickly, and a lot of people I trained that came into the field as well, became disillusioned by it because there was a misalignment, and that prompted me to really support people in the helping professional that became drained by the systems that they were working in and not being able to serve the people that they wanted to in the way that they wanted to. And then also in the healing arts, helping healers be able to regulate their energy as well, because they would take on so much from other people. And all of this to say that one of the things I discovered is that when we don't live our full potential, we become drained. There's so much resistance and constriction and restrictions that don't support who we came here to be, do what we came here to do, and really make the kind of impact that we want to, and decide how we're going to be living our life. And so now I don't focus so much on the healing impact anymore. I focus more on the empowerment. And this came about too, because as a helping professional, I experienced the adrenal shutdown, that was explored earlier, and compassion fatigue, and just not being able to get to the point where I was helping people the way that I wanted to. And so what became apparent to me is that it's the energy and our passion that has the greatest impact. And so being able to support people in sustaining that so that they don't become drained or disillusioned or become constricted by certain conditions that they're trying to work with, that we really lead with passion. And the way that I see passion, when you break up the word, it's pass I on. That I being your soul's expression of what you're here to pass on in this lifetime. So instead of being like Goldilocks and trying to find the right thing, the right bed, to lie in and to sleep in, it's about finding your potency, activating your true power, and being aligned with that. And in order to do that, we also have to put ourselves first. Because putting yourself first puts you in a position of leadership, and it helps you sustain that energy and passion so that you can have profound impact, unlike the way to the collective transformation that we aspire to achieve. And we do that together. And so I love bringing people together these days as a speaker, as a facilitator, a podcast host to Awaken and Ascend, and Wake Up and Change the World Global Summits is something I also host. So these are all ways that we can come together and join forces, so to speak, to really create that transformation and have the impact that we came here to do. So yeah, just finding out what that is for us.
Oh, I mean, this is what the world needs right now, because I mean, we're all feeling how we're shifting consciously also in a macro level. So yeah, I was just like attentively listening. I think that's your work is amazing, your service is amazing to others, and I think it's always for a lot of us that, you know, society programmed us to be overachievers. This is the overachiever's dream, because once you understand how to clarify and how to stay aligned with your soul's mission, you're unstoppable, because you're at the highest level of anything, creation, success, all those things that, you know, for most of us, we thought that was the meaning of life. Just supposed to be here and achieve, you know. But I love that you said pass on. I like that. That was very intentional message that you had there, because that's what life is all about: creation and impact in other people, and contribution and service. So yeah, thank you, Jennifer, for coming on and sharing what you do as well.
Thank you so much.
All right, I would love to go to Sam Libovitz next. Hi, Sam, welcome.
Hi, Elona. Thank you so much for having me here. It's great to meet everybody, and even the people who dropped off already. Oh my God, you have so many amazing people in your community. Really something. You know, at first blush, I kind of look like the odd duck here because I run an internet radio station. You know, I run a business. But before this, I was an energy healer. I also run a wellness center, and I'm also a an underground plant medicine facilitator here in New York City. So I woo with the best of them. But you know, my passion these days is really helping people have a message, you know, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, people have something they're passionate about. Jennifer, thank you so much. Good to see you here, Jennifer. To really get their message out there, because I think we all kind of get that, like, if we do everything on our own, it gets to be too much real quick. And I'm a big believer in like outsourcing what we're not good at and focusing on our genius. And so that's what we do for the people who work with us, is we take care of all the different aspects of having an online show. We stream out the audio, the video, we get the video simulcast to YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. And then we record it while we air it live, and then we put out the recording afterwards as the podcasting, with people up on all the different podcasting platforms, so that really our hosts just kind of show up once a week, do their genius, go about their day, and we handle the rest, so that this way they can focus on their content. If they're doing an interview style show, you know, getting their guests, they just focus on that and we take care of the rest. And that saves so much time. And, you know, I've talked to so many entrepreneurs over the years, and I've been doing this 14 years now, that just, I've talked to so many people who've said like, oh, I don't want to do a podcast. It takes way too much work. And I'm like, well, that's because you're trying to do it all on your own instead of working with a professional. And you know, it's kind of funny. People always ask me, how did I get into this? To have a background in broadcasting or anything? And it's like, nah, I just met a guy at a party. I was at this party 14 years ago at a friend's apartment down in the Chelsea neighborhood, and a mutual friend of ours brings this guy to the party and says, Sam, you got to talk to my friend. I'm like, okay, I have no idea why. I can see he's a little awkward in a social situation. I'm like, so what do you do? He's like, oh, I'm an acupuncturist. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I know a lot of healers, but not too many acupuncturists. But in his next breath, he was like, but I've decided to become a Buddhist monk and I'm selling off all my worldly possessions. Like, oh, that's kind of different. I'm like, well, did you sell your business yet? He's like, nah, not yet. But, you know, I'm talking to some people. I'm like, well, I network a lot. I know a lot of people. Maybe I can help you sell your business. And he was like, oh, that'd be really nice. It would be good karma for you. And so we're talking a little bit more. And then he says, oh, yeah, and I started this internet radio station last year. And I'm like, wait a minute. This sounds a little familiar. Acupuncturist radio station. I'm like, what's your name again? He says, Giorgio Rapetti. And I'm like, I know who you are because my friend Larry Sharp does a radio show on your network and he's told me about you, but he never put the two of us together. And now there he is standing in front of me in living color. And so a week later, I have this long 2.5 hour meeting with him. And I kind of jokingly say to him, this is such a good deal. It's like getting two businesses for the price of one. I'm like, if I can't help you sell the business, I'll just buy it myself. And sure enough, that's what ended up happening. So it was just kind of a lesson for me in saying yes to life. It's, life, I feel sometimes just presents opportunities in front of us. And if we're not present to it, we don't recognize them. If we're present to it, we just say yes, it can take us in directions like far beyond our imagination. I mean, I couldn't imagine 20, 30 years ago that I'd be doing today what I'd be doing. And I've been an entrepreneur since 1993. I've had a half a dozen different businesses in different industries. I like to say I'm about on my 7th lifetime in this life. So I just feel like saying yes to life is sometimes one of the greatest skills we can develop.
What a beautiful message, Sam. Beyond the amazing work you're doing with helping others reach the people that they can help. That's kind of how I see all channels, all the different channels in the world. I always looked at that macro level. And at the time where it felt like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to show up or be on all these different platforms or channels. I think it's important to align ourselves with people like you that can do a lot of the back end work for people that might not have that as part of their talent gift or want to do that, because I think it's important to be able to share our message with as many people as we can. I think that's the impact and the scale piece. But yeah, I mean, a funny story, right? I mean, with the connection that you made, was that a coincidence or on purpose? I could tell everything happens for a reason, and it kind of led you in this path for sure. What is the reach that you have with your platform for people that are looking for? I'm always looking for myself to obviously leverage my own audiences and platforms, but also other people's platforms based on the mutual connection and the benefit to be able to reach the people that I want to serve, within other platforms, and working smart around that, because I know it can get crazy over kind of being everywhere and nowhere, and people get frustrated in the process. So I think if we're intentional about where is the ROI and if this is aligned with the mission, the vision that we have for our companies, I think it's easier then to make a really good strategic decision to be where we want to be, because the time and the money that we even invest definitely will have a ROI. So what is the reach of the platform that you have created for people that are looking for another channel to...
Sure. So one of the things we do as a station, which most stations don't do, is we actually provide our hosts with a statistics report every month of how many people are listening to their show. And so like this isn't guesswork. This isn't like, oh, the station reaches, 500,000 people. So you're getting some of that. No, this is like actual people who are listening to the audio server, to the live show, from all the different video platforms, on the podcasting apps, from the website. We download it all, put it in this giant spreadsheet, sort it and subtotal it by show, and come up with, okay, this is how many people are listening to each individual episode that you're coming out with. So this way our host can really look at and say, oh, like this guest drew a lot of people, or this topic was very popular. Now, if I look at my statistics report today, I think we're averaging about 200 to 300,000 listeners per month. However, a big chunk of that comes from the fact that we have this huge library of videos on Facebook and YouTube that every month keeps getting more and more listeners, even though they might have come out years ago. If I look at, what's coming out currently, like this month, we're probably somewhere between 45 and 75,000 listeners for that. But when I look at the station overall, we're getting 200, 300,000 listeners a month now. But before I used to say, oh, we're only getting about 35 to 45,000, but I wasn't looking at the statistics right, when I was requesting the log files from Facebook and YouTube. Now I get them and I'm like, oh my God, like I didn't realize how many these old shows, like still every single month, are getting more and more and more listeners. And that's, Seth Godin calls it the long tail of marketing. And it's just the longer the longevity of putting stuff out there and having it out there for the long term, it builds up over time. It'll blow your mind how many people you can reach if you just stick with it. And that's the biggest problem I see, is people don't stick with something long enough, so they don't get to that point where it exponentiates because of the longevity.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Sam. Yeah, it's very important. That's why I talk about purpose, because purpose, it's that thing that keeps you in the game, and it's always important, or at least I've seen that I'll stick in the game if I believe in what I'm doing, and I also think I'm in contribution to others, because we all know that we will do more for others than we'll ever do for ourselves. So we will show up to serve for sure. So yeah, thank you absolutely for sharing that. And yeah, good message in knowing your numbers. I think it's another thing that for most of us entrepreneurs, we kind of just focus on other things, but knowing your numbers is really important as well. So you can make a really good decision for yourself, and you can gauge your marketing efforts, because we all should be savoring our time and our dollars and putting that in the right channels for sure. So thank you, Sam, for all the amazing service that you're doing out there in the world as well.
Thank you.
All right, 2 more speakers. I can't believe it. I wanna say hi to Liz Enton, and then Dr. Love. I will leave Dr. Love for the end, because I think that's a beautiful message, and I can tentatively pick up the work that she's doing as well. But Liz, welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I am the founder of Why Get Wasted, and we work with events and corporations to help them be sustainable and eliminate single-use plastics, waste, and I guess some pivotal, I've been an entrepreneur for a while. My original career was in fashion, and I had a blog in college that I turned into a company that covered fashion weeks and emerging designers from around the world. And I worked on photo shoots with big magazines. And yes, it was a lot of fun, but I mean, just everything you're hearing nonstop about climate change. And if, not to be grim, but if we don't solve this, like kind of nothing else matters, it's pretty important. And yeah, everything I was seeing in fashion, well, beautiful art, and the big labels and the ones that really could pay the bills, even though my passion was more the emerging ones, it was just like an astronomical amount of waste. And, I've always kind of lived pretty aware of this, and tried to never use plastic. And, as I decided for a lot of reasons, some personal ones, some multiple reasons, I decided to leave the fashion industry. And I did kind of a life reevaluation, and I knew I wanted to stay with entrepreneurship. And over quarantine, I'm very social. I really like events. I like being with people, and every time I go to events, the amount of just very unnecessary waste, plastics, just multiple things that I'll see. And obviously I'm never going to be rude and say something. So I'm like, whoa, what if I could say something and get paid to do it? So that was the launch of Why Get Wasted. And right now I'm basically looking for clients and a co-founder who has an expertise in sales. So that is where I'm at, or at least someone who wants to help part-time with sales for a significantly higher commission rate than standard, since I can't do salary. And that's pretty much where I'm at, and just really care about the cause and love being around people at events. And I appreciate so much. I've loved all your stories. So thank you so much. And it's an honor to be here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. But I mean, it's kind of like the planet is kind of our home, right? It's kind of where we live in. So I think the work is so important, and it's so easy to kind of just not be intentional about that. Maybe companies that have more of a brick and mortar model where they're, have their products, right? Because in the service industry, it's a little bit easier. We're more, holistic with that. But, if you have a product and you are, doing that in your processes and your operations, I think it's really important. What is the capacity that you serve? How is it that you specifically help companies get less waste?
So it's primarily for events, but I'm open to doing a company evaluation overall for things such as like meetings and breakfasts. I will sit down with the founder. I will go through all details because there's a lot of behind the scenes people don't think of. I mean, there's the obvious, like, are you having disposable cups? But what milk are you using for your coffee? There's a lot of ethics. How are the cows treated? There's a lot of milks where they're really well treated, and you can get it in refillable glass bottles. Go through every step. How are you giving information when the attendees get there? Like, why are you still giving out paper printouts, which surprisingly a lot still do, or glossy, like very toxic materials? Just have them scan QR codes. And just there's just so many little things people don't think of, like, depending on budget. If you're getting cell phone charging stations, let's look into solar options. What type of water are you providing? It's just, you go through every detail. And again, a lot of people don't think of, like, hand soaps. What hand soaps are being provided? Like, usually they'll just be in little plastic bottles that are tossed at the end, but there's plenty of companies where you can get refillable glass bottles. So I do 100% evaluation. No one wants to do the 100%, so that's something I have to make peace with. And we go through the menu and I'll say, well, this is what I think is most important and this is why. And from there, I'll work, we'll do a realistic plan and move forward with it. And then I'll work with either event planners. I'm not an event planner. I work with event planners. I'll work with event planners and then, or the founders of the company, depending on the event. And then I'll do all the logistics. I know what brands to work with. I do the logistics of getting the brands, getting it set up once they've chosen what they want. And I'll often give them a couple options. I'll be like, look, I think renting cups that are reusable is the best option, but we can also do compostable and set up a compost system. And, I'll give them choices.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I think you bridge the gap between education and implementation, right? Because there's a lot of different things in the ways businesses are operating that just like human life, unless you're conscious about how that's affecting, or maybe there's other budget conscious choices that, you can make. I think there's a lot of opportunity to add value for businesses in that way as well. Thank you so much for doing that and coming here today. It was nice to meet you. Thank you so much, Liz.
It was wonderful to meet you. And I'm so sorry to be honest, I'm going to have to jump off at exactly 3 because I have a business call at 3. So I'm going to stay. I ideally want to hear everyone, but just not to be rude, I'm going to have to leap off at 3. So thank you.
No worries. I know we're reaching the top of the second hour, so I appreciate everybody's time. Don't worry, everybody will be able to connect with one another. I think one of the values that something that I personally value in my community is always to be able to connect people together. And I think forming sure that you've done, a lot of the conversation piece here together, and also with the audience. I think it's the next step could absolutely be ways to collaborate and further support each other's missions and purposes for sure. So thank you so much for being here. And I would love to go to Dr. Love, last but not least, our last speaker for the day. Dr. Love, welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You know how you go to a buffet and you overeat? Thank you all for the meal. You have fed me and fed me well. I am stuffed and I appreciate it. And it was a free meal. So I really want to thank you all. But what do? I do work in helping folks feel good about conversations around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And folks will tell me, well, Jamaica, a lot of people aren't doing that. There are different places around the country that are making all these rules and laws. Honestly, they don't understand the data. They don't understand that companies with more racial and ethnic diversity have 35% more in terms of their income compared to their peers, right? They obviously don't understand if you have more women in leadership positions, that means you have more clients in new markets. They obviously haven't read the data. Hiring more women means that you are more competitive, improved decision-making, and it increases higher employee satisfaction. So that is what I do. I help people feel good about those conversations and see the benefits of them. I used to be morbidly obese. I used to weigh almost 300 pounds. If somebody would have told me you're going to hate going to the gym every day, I would say, well, forget it. I just won't go. Don't tell me that diversity. Tell me the positives about diversity. Tell me how I can benefit. Tell me how I can see myself in this DEI conversation, no matter what my background is, male, female, white, person of color, whoever I am. I need to be able to see myself in this picture. So I'm all into making sure people can see themselves in this diversity conversation. And I love what I do. I was in a job and I was the chief diversity officer, and some guy came and ran his fingers through my hair. Another person called me a demon because I was teaching inclusion. And you know what? Whoever said, if you do something you really love, you'll keep doing it. I didn't care if somebody ran their fingers through my hair. Okay, you want to know more about my hair? Come on, sit down, talk to me. I'll tell you about my hair, okay? Because at the end of the day, I love these conversations and I love what they can do for you. I'll tell you one quick story. The people who work with me, right, and doing this inclusivity piece. I was at a conference one day listening to this guy talking. He was challenging people. He said, you know, if you're in a community where everybody looks like you, maybe you need to reassess that. If you're working at a place where most of the people look like you, reassess that. If you're in a faith community where most of the people look like you, meaning look like you, have similar social economic backgrounds, all of that, maybe you need to reassess. If your friends are similar to you, reassess that, right? And so I found myself one day, years later, after he had said that, I was in an organization. It was predominantly Black organization I was working for. I was living in a predominantly Black community and going to a predominantly Black faith community. Said, what that man said had took root in my heart. Once something takes root in your heart, your mind will remember it and it comes out in your actions, right? And I said to myself, wait, I can do something different here, right? And I said, well, I'm not going to quit my job. You know, you got to go through the interview process, all the resumes over again. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to move because that takes a lot of energy. But can I go to a different faith community? I said, yes, I can. And really quickly, that story resulted in me spending the next 7 years in a predominantly Asian faith community. Okay. Still a community that I keep in touch with. I think it's been over a decade now. I tell so people understand the work I'm doing isn't just a job. I live this out. I try to challenge myself, right? In having more diverse experiences so I can help you have more diverse experience. So at the end of the day, that's what I do, Higher Dimensions, and that's my company. Thank you.
Dr. Love, I love your message. And I bet you that's kind of at the bottom of everything, the fundamental of bringing in, you know, the right people. I think diversity, one thing that I valued over the years that I've lived in New York, because I'm natively from Albania, migrated here when I was 15 and then been here for 25 years, is diversity. You know, different cultures, different unique journeys, life experiences, personal, professional. I think it can only just help each other grow. And when you have this kind of culture inside your company, in your hiring practices, in your retention practices, all the different practices that bring in amazing people around you. Yeah, I mean, everything that companies want, productivity, efficiency, for, you know, profits, they all become a byproduct of amazing people around you that are diverse and can add unique perspectives to the table, but also bring in their creativity and their experiences. I don't know any more magical thing than developing top talent, which was one of the things that I used to do in a past life in the corporate space. And I found that that was my gift too, just building talent and bringing in amazing, diverse people around the table. So thank you so much for the amazing work that you're doing out there in the world. And we've actually reached the end of this event. I just don't want this to end, but I know we all have lives and businesses and things to go back to. So I would love to, I will absolutely connect you with the rest of the speakers that couldn't stay for the entire time, but I would love to go back to all my speakers that are still here remaining. Kudos to you in your commitment and your service and sharing what you do based on the work that you're doing. I'd love to go back to Janet, maybe one short final message, one, you know, whatever streamline, one word, one sentence message for our audience. And also, where is it that the audience can continue this conversation with you? So I'll go back to Janet for that. Oh, Janet's still muted.
Thank you. One final word. I think it would have to be to make time for yourself. Even if it's, you know, just an extra 10 minutes to just sit quietly and come back to who you are every day. And then see what thoughts come up, see where that brings you, and take care of yourself so that you can be your best self for yourself, your family, and your business. And if you would like to know more about me, you can find me probably best on my website, janetsandberg.com.
Beautiful. Thank you. Janina.
I need to unmute myself. One thing that I could say is for entrepreneurs, you don't have to do it alone. There's a lot to be said with finding a community, and that support that you need. I think oftentimes we think when we are building our own businesses, it's just about us and we have to do it by ourselves. And if we don't do it by ourselves, somehow it's not real. And that's not true. And you end up, as many on the panel have said, you end up with burnout. You end up either paying more money than you needed to for something just because you were trying to do it on your own. You didn't want to ask questions. So I just think, it's okay to find your own community. And you can go to my website, csweetnoir.com, and, click on the, partner link and, it'll connect you with me.
Thank you. I just remembered that we got connected at the Small Business Expo in New York, right?
Yes.
I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I just connected with that. Thanks so much for sharing. All right. Ligia, please don't forget to unmute yourself.
Yes, hello. Thank you so much for having me here, and it was wonderful to be here. So the thing I want to say is that don't let the inner critics stop you from succeeding. And one way to do that is finding out what your dominant inner critics are. So if you want to go to loveyourmission.com free gift, you could get an assessment and find out what those are. So again, don't let them mess with your head.
Beautiful. Barbara? Not sure if he's still there. Okay, I'll go to Lorna next.
Elona, thank you for an amazing event. The speakers here were absolutely fabulous. So much good information. What I would say to entrepreneurs who are listening to all of us here today is to really find leverage. Find your vision, then find leverage. It's super important. It's actually, I know we talked about planting seeds, but even when you plant seeds in strategic partnerships, it's absolutely gonna flow and grow more than you've ever thought. And it's really, 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 really good if you're a lone wolfer. Strategic partnerships is for you because you get to be in relationship, and that relationship is gonna exponentially increase your business and your life in ways you never thought. So that's what I would say is find great strategic partnerships to leverage your life, leverage your time, and leverage your business. And you can reach me on LinkedIn, Lorna Sherland, on Facebook, Lorna Sherland. I keep it really simple. Just look for Lorna Sherland and you find me anywhere. Thank you.
All right, simplified personal brand. That helps. Thanks so much. And Jane, oh my gosh, I couldn't catch it. And Janie, right?
And Janae.
And Janae. Okay, I'm putting the accent in the wrong thing. Yeah, please feel free to share your message.
Yes, of course. So I just want to leave all the visionary leaders with one final thought. Starting off with a quote from Ben Franklin. I'm from Philly. If you don't know, Ben Franklin's pretty big in our town. And it's for every minute spent in organizing, an hour is earned. And so just keeping in mind that there's so many people telling you to make more, but you don't have to make more when you learn to keep more and get the most out of everything in your hands. And so if you want to figure out how to do that and you want me to help you along that journey, you can find me on all socials at the Christian Biz Boss or at thechristianbizboss.com.
Hey, beautiful. Jennifer?
My heart is so full of love and gratitude right now. And I think that's something to be consciously aware of, is how we're filling ourselves up, who and what we fill ourselves up with. And as visionaries, especially vital because it's our energy and our passion that has the greatest impact. So it's important to put yourself first, so that puts you in a position of leadership.
Beautiful message. Jennifer, where is it that the audience can continue the conversation with you?
Lightingthepath.ca is where you'll find everything.
Okay, and Jennifer also is part of our community expert program inside our community, so you'll find her easier there as well. But I want to thank all my speakers today. Thank you again for filling my cup, and I'm sure you'll do the same for the audience listening and joining us. I appreciate your time, wisdom, and the amazing service that you're doing out there in the world to light each other up and be able to share the impact and create a beautiful world, because at the end of the day, I think we all come here for that reason. So thank you so much for joining our event. We also have a community expert program that I'd like to play a video for you. So if you'd like to stick around, just stick around and you'll be able to hear more details on that. Thank you so much. Stay blessed. And I'll see you next time with another beautiful event and another amazing lineup of amazing experts and beautiful souls that are doing amazing work in the world. Bye, everybody. Are you looking for paid TEDx podcasts and free visibility speaking opportunities with other like-minded audiences to put on your calendar? Speaking is one of those daily operational activities in our service-based businesses so that we can expose the visibility that we have, but also share our message and share our work with new audiences every day. Inside our C-suite community expert program here at the Life School, we have made this very, very simple for you. It's a plug and play system. You just fill out forms and also place speaking opportunities onto your calendar without any overwhelm. We will strategically introduce you to high-level quality connections that will move your mission and vision further faster. And also you'll get to participate in our own speaking event, magazine, and podcast opportunities that we have here at the Life School with an audience and community of over 30,000 seasoned CEOs. For more information, I would love to invite you to go check out our website at elonaloparicoaching.com/C-suite program. See you back inside the show.